Nice to meet you, Hafsah. This is our kind of like our first proper meeting as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Hafsah.
Yeah, Jazakallah Habiba. So yeah, it's the first radio show for Green Guardians Leicester. If you've not heard of us, then I'll give us a brief introduction. So we're a group of Muslims here in Leicester. We are volunteers, and we basically noticed a few months ago that there was a lack of conversation around environmental issues within the Muslim community. So we thought, let's get together and with people who thought the same and start a group. So this was just like a month ago, and since then we've grown really huge. We've got nearly like 30 members now, and we've done some really exciting projects which I'll share in a few seconds. But yeah, so that's us basically. I'll share some of the aims and objectives that we've got, inshallah, for the next few months. We're really hoping that through our group to raise awareness, to educate the community, and also to implement change within our communities to become more sustainable and more environmentally friendly, and kind of start that conversation between families and friends.
It's much needed, Hafsah. I've been waiting for years for something like this to start up in Leicester. I just never had the courage to start anything myself, but when I did receive that message from Amina that we're thinking of starting this, I was like overjoyed and I jumped at the chance. It's been needed for years.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's so many people who thought that. That's why it's grown so quickly, and we've managed to do so many things so quickly as well, because people really wanted something like this for a while, and then we just needed a group of people to kind of just start. So alhamdulillah, it's been really great. I think we're hoping, so some of our like main objectives are to kind of reduce to encourage some environmental actions, but with Sunnah, Hadith, Quran at the core, and then use that to kind of promote and reduce like the religious illiteracy that we have within our communities of environmental actions and the importance of looking after the environment. So we're hoping to do that, and inshallah we want to educate young people, so go to madrasas, educate the adults in the community. We've been doing things, a few things that they could perhaps implement and share with people who come to pray, to kind of to encourage a greener Ramadan. Things like cycling to the mosque, for example.
That's really good, and Ramadan is a really good starting point.
Yeah, exactly. It's a time when you sow the seeds of your ideas and of your actions. So I think we started at a great time as well.
We did, yes.
But yeah, so inshallah, that's what we're hoping to do. So reduce that religious illiteracy, and also engage with the community. So after Ramadan, and once we're able to do things, I think we really want to do some community action events, things like group litter picking or cleaning up areas or planting a garden somewhere in a mosque. And inshallah, we've already got a mosque who want to plant a garden, so that's a project we've got ongoing.
Oh, that's a really good start.
Yes.
It's good that we've got people on board.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've received, from the contact we've made so far, we've received really good responses, and we definitely want to work together with the community. So inshallah, we'll work on that. So that's some of the bits we've been doing. So we've got this show, so we'll be on Ramadan Radio from 6 till 7 every Tuesday, right up until the end of Ramadan, inshallah. Today we'll be talking, just a little introduction to the group, and then a bit of an introduction into why as Muslims we should be looking after the environment and our obligation as Muslims, and then we'll touch on some actions that we can do.
Is there anything for the children that we'll be having for Hafsah?
So on next Wednesday, inshallah, so Sister Fatima, who's also part of the Green Guardians, she also does the kids show on during the week. So next Wednesday, so that's the 21st, I think. Yeah, the 21st, she'll be doing a kids show, like Green Guardians kids show, so like some things that kids could get involved with and do. So that'll be really exciting. So yeah, that's something to stay tuned for, as well as our regular 6 to 7 Tuesdays.
That's really exciting. I think it's really needed because that knowledge of, I mean, as Muslims, we have the responsibility. We should be at the forefront of taking environmental issues. But I think it's really needed that in our community we do need to educate and
get it closer
and bring and start something up as a community, because I think that was what was lacking. We see other faiths that have got environmental movements, but there wasn't one for the Muslim community. Is that correct?
Exactly. I think that's what started, actually. We were part of this other event where there was lots of there was a Hindu community, the Sikh community, and they were talking about groups and their religious places which had implemented all these eco changes, and we thought, we don't have anything like that in Leicester, at least. So we really saw that gap, and that was definitely one of the reasons we wanted to start. But I think it's a huge responsibility, and we'll touch on that in a second. But just before we go there, I just want to mention that we'd love if you could send in through the Facebook Live chat any thoughts you have as we're going. Any ideas or anything that you're doing to have an eco Ramadan, and we're also going to be announcing a competition that we're doing at the end. So stay tuned for that.
So we'd love your comments. Any I don't know, do we have a text message number? So it is coming up. There is a WhatsApp number, and the number to send your WhatsApp messages on is 077. Just waiting for it to come through. So 077 488 550 55. That's 077 488 5055. So any messages you want to WhatsApp, you can send on there. Or if you're listening on Facebook Live, you can send your messages in the comments section. We'd really, really love you to take part in this show. Send in your comments, any questions you may have, any ideas, or any way that you'd like to take part as well. So just interact with us during the show.
Yeah, that'll be really great. And if you want to see whilst we're talking and you want to see bits we've already been doing or just things we've shared, like I said, we're a month old, so we've only just started. We've also done some really great things, but on Instagram we're quite active on there. So it's Green Guardians Leicester on Instagram. So that's Guardians with a plural, so with an S at the end. So you can find us on there, inshallah.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a bit more about how the name came about, Hafsah?
I think there were lots of variations in the name. Green Guardians Leicester was a suggestion made by someone. It sounds very like superhero-y. But I think the root of guardians in Islam, like we're told as Muslims to be khalifas of the earth and to be stewards. And it kind of, guardians is just another word that we thought kind of suited the same. Green Guardians, we are stewards of the earth, and we're Green Guardians of Leicester, so stewards, inshallah.
Inshallah. And I think we wanted something specific to be known as a Leicester group, so that's why the Leicester came in, isn't it? Yeah,
inshallah. I think there are some really great groups all over England, and we wanted something to happen in Leicester. But of course, if people in other cities want to work with us, we're very much open to that.
Inshallah, for the future. So, I mean, I'm just going to talk about some of our responsibilities as Muslims, and what our faith teaches us about looking after the earth. Because, like you said, Allah has placed us on this earth as khalifas, as guardians, and that's where the name comes from. So, and we live in a world full of lots of different activisms and people urging others to listen to their ideas and accept them. And one of these movements is the eco-friendly movement. But this isn't something new or abnormal. It's simply the teachings of our Prophet ﷺ through the Quran and the Hadith from over 1400 years ago. Firstly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed us on this earth as his deputies and vicegerents. Allah says in the Quran, "Remember when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to create a deputy on the earth. And they said, will you create there one who will spread disorder on the earth and cause bloodshed while we proclaim your purity along with your praise and sanctify your name?" Allah replied, "Certainly I know what you know not. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a vicegerent is a person exercising delegated power on behalf of a sovereign ruler. So we're actually on here on behalf of Allah's rules.
Yeah.
Such a big responsibility on our shoulders. Now, Allah the Almighty is the King of Kings, the Lord of the worlds. Therefore, He is in ownership of everything, and we are simply making use of His property. So similarly, we are making use of this planet of ours, and therefore, essentially, the guardians here to protect and preserve it, which sometimes is quite the opposite in our case.
It is, yeah. And I feel like as Muslims, we've moved quite far away from that. Of course, I'm not generalizing, but I think you see quite daily, I think even personally, like we've moved so far away from what Islam teaches us about the best way to live, and a lot of that is rooted in living so you're not harmful on the environment, and your impact is as little as possible. But things like over-consuming, something we'll touch on in another show, but yeah, there's so many things that we're doing which just don't sit within what the Hadith and the Sunnah has taught us. Yes. And it's something we do need to kind of address. And
I mean, Allah has also said in the Quran, and seek the betterment of the ultimate abode with what Allah has given to you, and do not neglect your share from this world, and do good as Allah did good to you, and do not seek to make mischief in the land. Surely Allah does not like the mischief makers. In another place in the Quran, He says to us, and do not go about the earth spreading disorder. The way we have neglected our environment and broken the trust given to us by Allah can fall under the category of causing mischief on the land and spreading disorder. Because of the way the environment has been destroyed, from deforestation to being the cause for the extinction of animals, to the ripping of the ozone layer, to pollution. The list goes on and on. I mean, how many times do we walk through the streets and the litter that we see around us? Another thing really saddens me is that as soon as we buy a home, we move into the home, we're so quick to rip out the garden and just lay out a fully slab patio. How much of the bioflora are we getting rid of there?
Exactly. And I've got a gardening background, so that makes me even more sad. But of course, there's just completely, especially when you move in and it's like an established garden, or not even that, even if you're just removing grass. Yes. There's such an important part of the ecosystem, and actions like that, which are just made very impulsively without thinking about the bigger picture, is something we need to change. We need to work on. Yeah. Like really thinking about each and every action we make and how that is impacting everything, not just us.
Yes. And I mean, I remember from studying biology in school, when you look at the food web, and it really used to make me think how every single living being, we're dependent on each other, and as humans we're like on the top of the food chain, and at the bottom you have your little insects and ants, and below that is the greenery, the grass and the soil, and there's probably insects and flora in there that haven't even been discovered yet, because Allah talks about that there's so many creations, universes that we do not even know about yet. So how many there that we haven't created,
that we don't exactly,
that we're dependent upon. And then when we see that we're removing the grass or the flowers, how many bees are dying, how many little insects are dying, and when they're not there, the animals that eat those insects, they suffer. Yeah. Going forward, the top of the food chain suffers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And without, and again, and these animals and insects, then it goes up that food chain, and eventually does lead to us. We will eventually be harmed by that action. Yes. And yes, that's literally it's a really great way of thinking about it, because we are at the end of that food chain and we're disrupting that right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Allah tells us in the Quran that there isn't a single creature being or anything that He's made useless. And one example I heard in a lecture at somewhere is that in Zambia there's a lot of malaria because of the mosquitoes, and they try to kill off the mosquitoes to control the malaria. When the population of the mosquitoes started dying, they realized that the mosquitoes used to eat this other insect which used to feed on the straw roofs of the huts of the homes. So they increased in population, which in turn affected the housing. So then they realize that, no, we need these mosquitoes. So
Yeah.
something so insignificant as a mosquito, yet we rely on them.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's nothing Allah hasn't created which
Subhanallah, yeah.
does have use for us, and we should be living in such a way that we're careful and we look after everything around us. And it's a result of this mistreatment of the trust of ours that we are beginning to feel the negative impacts, and it's our future generations that are going to feel the negative impacts even more than us.
Mm-hmm.
So along with having this great responsibility as a human, the importance of caring for the environment is also highlighted by the Prophet ﷺ as a branch of faith. The Prophet ﷺ said in a narration of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim that faith consists between 70 and 80 branches, the highest of which is the statement La ilaha illallah, and the lowest branch is removing harmful objects from the path, and modesty is a branch of faith. The word harmful is what we intend to highlight here. Harmful doesn't only refer to physical harm and harm to humans, it also consists of any sort of harm caused to any living creature on the earth. This includes eyesore for humans, harm to animals, bad smells, pollution. The list is endless. This action, in fact, is a type of physical obedience to Allah, the Almighty, and the highest branch can be seen in verbal worship. Mullah Ali Qari mentions in his commentary that the first portion of the hadith, La ilaha illallah, is establishing the truth, or honoring the command of Allah and fulfilling His rights. And the second part is fulfilling the rights of the creation. So, keep making sure that we're not causing harm and we're removing objects of harm from the path.
Yeah.
Is fulfilling the rights of the creation. And this explanation can be beautifully summarized in this topic, in this discussion, because harming the environment is essentially not fulfilling the rights of Allah's creation. And on the Day of Judgment, we will be questioned about this and held accountable for this.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I think that summarizes exactly what we're trying to say, and that is, harmful doesn't just mean what things like items. It means it covers so many things basically, yes. And whether we are indirectly being harmful to the animals by the levels in the temperatures in the climate rising because of climate change, which we are contributing to. We are harming animals. We are harming, like you said, like the mosquitoes. There are other instances where, because of climate change, the insects that act as predators have died out, and in a lot of countries like Africa, that has had a direct impact. So by us not thinking of the harmful actions that we are creating, it is not just impacting animals, but it's also impacting humans in other countries without us realizing. And there's so many like detailed examples that I could probably give. Things like locusts, for example, which are swarming in Africa, in countries like Kenya, that's been caused by climate change. That's ruining entire crops of fields for farmers, and they've become more prominent because of the increase in temperatures, and that's been caused by climate change, and that's been caused by the carbon dioxide that's released into the atmosphere, which we contribute to through our consuming, through our cars, through everything we do. So through a lot of the actions we do. So just thinking about our actions, but on a bigger picture, yes. and looking at these hadith and thinking, okay, by harmful, a lot of the things we're doing are harmful, and kind of starting to question these actions and starting to change these actions is really important.
Yes, I think we really do need to start looking within ourselves and start making those changes, because those changes start with us, and if all of us even makes a single small change, it has a big impact. I read the other day that if every household was to recycle one plastic item, that would be enough energy to produce energy for 82,000 homes.
Wow.
So, that's just recycling one item every single household.
Yeah.
So little doesn't.
Yeah, that's really powerful. That highlights it really well, and that's a nice ending point. We're going to go off onto a break now, but after that we'll be talking about actions we can take, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
That worked well. Yeah. So we've got a Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back. You're listening to the Green Guardians Leicester Show on Ramadan FM on 87.9 FM. You can listen online as well on Facebook Live. And you can text in as well. The number to text in is 077 488 55055. Please make this an interactive show. We have had some messages come in.
We have.
We've got some good feedback saying it's a great topic and much needed as well. So keep those messages coming in.
We would love, as we're going to be discussing some actions now. So we'd love, as we're going, if people could comment and share their thoughts, and maybe if they're doing some of the things we talk about.
Yeah, or maybe we might have said something that you didn't know, something that's made you change, or it is the first fast as well. Ramadan is a month of change. You might want to start making your intentions. What intention do you want to make that change in your life to become more economically, environmentally aware? Start doing something different, inshallah. Ramadan is a time for reflection on both life and our return to Allah, and it is a time for self-improvement. So it's when the soil is brought to life. So the soil around us is brought to life as well by rain. Allah's mercy comes down in this month. Our hearts are brought to life. It's a time for sowing good deeds whose fruits we enjoy the sweetness of, and throughout the month, inshallah, during the rest of the year. So this is when we plant those seeds, and the fruits of it we see and rest of the year.
Inshallah. And I think one action we can start talking about, we've got a bunch that we want to get through, but I think the first one could be about reducing meat consumption. Now, we're not saying not stop having meat completely. Well, some people might be of that opinion. But here we're saying reducing your meat consumption. And if you may not be aware, or just to kind of remind you that the meat industry and the dairy industry is one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases. To greenhouse gases. So things like cows, they release methane, and then through the production and the processing and the whole process before it gets to us, there's lots of carbon dioxide released. There's lots of nitrous oxides released from fertilizers and things like that they use on land. And all of that combined, it's a huge, when you look at when you look at where carbon dioxide mainly comes from, the meat and dairy industry is a huge part of that. And I think it's really important that we address that. And as Muslims, we do have, there's a tradition of having meat and there's a tradition of eating meat. But if you look at hadith and sunnah, for example, the Prophet ﷺ hardly ate meat. So 3 moons would pass and the fire to cook would not be lit in any of the Prophet ﷺ's homes. And when asked what they ate, Aisha radiallahu anha would say that they ate 2 black things, meaning water and dates. So I think it's important to think. I think that it's not about cutting meat out completely, but it's about reducing your meat and being more practicing moderation when you consume meat. It's something which I'm trying to do in the house. Without you realizing, you go so far towards having meat for every single day of the week. And even if you don't think about the environment, it's just not what Islam teaches us. You're not supposed to have it. You're supposed to have it in moderation.
Yes. Meat was actually one of those dishes which was like a speciality dish, and our Prophet ﷺ was, you could say, he was semi-vegetarian. So it was like on special occasions they would have meat. You know, if you really looked, if you think about it, they wouldn't sacrifice an animal to eat every day. You know, it's only when somebody gave maybe a dawat or something, or somebody managed to get hold of some meat that they would have meat. It wasn't something they had every day. Whereas we're quite the opposite. Every single day we'll take out meat to cook. Yeah, exactly. Literally, and with takeaways, and especially in Leicester, we can find so many halal takeaway options where there is a lot of meat-based takeaways which are all halal. You very easily just go for that option. So I think moderation is really key when meat and so, for example, something you could do is just having
like having for today, for example, you might have already made your food for today, but if you haven't, then having a vegetarian iftar today. So not having any meat today, or tomorrow, if you're listening right now, if you've already made your food for today and it has meat in it, maybe tomorrow you don't have any meat in your food. What we like to do at home is we have a diary on the fridge of the food we're having that week. So we make like a food diary. Food calendar, I think you'd call it, wouldn't you? Food diary.
A menu or something.
A menu, that's the word. And what we do is, so when we're filling it out, just so so we're more mindful of what we're eating, we make sure that at least there's only like 2 days of meat in there, and all the other days are meat free. So to replacing meat with other protein rich things like lentils, grains, like chickpeas I love having chickpeas, like chickpea and potato, like curry, like lavin. That's really nice. But yeah, like being consciously reducing that, I think would be good. I'd love to know if you could put it in the chat or text in if any of you are mindful or have been trying to reduce your meat consumption, or if you're going to try to,
or any nice vegetables that you can suggest that we can during this month of Ramadan, because we all struggle as women. We all struggle. What are we going to make today? And actually planning that menu really helps with the shopping as well, and what you want to. And it does make you more mindful of what you're eating, rather than thinking off the spot, let me take this out of the freezer. One of our bad habits, we do stuff our freezer so much, especially with meat.
Yeah, we do. Like we stock up as if it's gonna run out. But I think that's another really good point. So rather than excessively buying your meat to freezer it, why don't you be very conscious? Okay, so I need only buy it when you need it.
Yes.
And like be very conscious about. So again, it goes back to every action you do, there's an impact to it.
Yes.
And really thinking about, okay, by me like stocking my entire freezer with meat, how is that impacting environment? How is that impacting the chemicals that come off the fields where cows would graze on? How is that impacting all the wildlife? And there's so many things when you unpack it. So I think it's really important to do. It'd be great if after listening to this, if some of you took like a small action of having, if you have a lot of meat nowadays and it's really hard for you to like kind of reduce that, even if just 1 day a week you have a meat-free iftari, just try that and slowly work your way into doing that more often. I think that'd be a really good place to start.
I think from 1 day, then moving to 2 days, maybe. It's small changes, subtle changes. That's how it happens. You can't go into big changes overnight. That's not going to work. It's got to be small, subtle changes. But remember, all those changes make a big difference.
Exactly, they do.
Yeah.
And
So Hafsah's talked about reducing meat. I'd like to talk about reducing our water usage. Alhamdulillah, we live in a world where water is available so freely, and we just turn on the tap and that water's there for us. And I think one thing, we can talk about you using less water overall, but I want to touch upon using less water when we make wudu. A lot of the times what we do is we have that tap running and we make wudu. We have that tap running when we're doing our miswak or doing our masa, when we could actually turn that tap off. And it comes in the hadith news, meaning that the salah is the key to paradise, and the key to salah is wudu. So we should be really, really conscious of how we make our wudu and use as less water as possible. The more water we waste when making wudu, it actually ruins our wudu. And shaitan gets really happy because we're actually wasting. And Allah doesn't like those people who waste. And shaitan actually gets really happy when we waste things, and water is one of those things specifically. And it comes, and I think it comes in the hadith, the Prophet Anas radiallahu anhu said that the Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu with a mud of water, and used to make ghusl with a sa of water. So a sa is about up to 5 muds.
Okay.
And a wood in a mud is, in some narrations, it's the amount of water that's in held when you cup your hands together. Or more specifically, it's somebody actually has measured the amount of water held in a mud, and it's 775 milliliters. And if you think about that, if you think about your 750 milliliter Coke bottles, which isn't the really small ones and not the big ones, but kind of the medium ones.
The medium ones, that's not a lot.
That's not a lot of water. And that's the amount of water that Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu. But not only that, he used to have water left over from that wudu, that it comes in the hadith that the water that was left over from the wudu, he used to stand up and face Qibla and drink it. So that tells us that there was water left over from there as well.
Wow, yeah.
Now compare that to how much water we use. We leave that tap on, it's unmeasurable.
We do.
Yeah.
And we're so careless about it as well. Like,
it is.
I think, so is there like, so it's mud, isn't it? It's spelled M-U-D-D. That's a measurement of how much water Prophet Muhammad
So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to have 2 measurements, the mud and the sa. And there's also a dua as well. Allahumma barik lana fi thamarina, Allahumma barik lana fi muddina, Allahumma barik lana fi sa'ana. So which means, oh Allah, bless our fruits, oh Allah, bless our muds and our sa. So that's what they use for all measurements. So if they were selling in the market, they use the mud or the sa, that will give me a mud of grains or a sa of grains. So it was actually a unit of measure. So that's the amount of measure that the amount of water that Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu. Actually, if you go on our Instagram page, we can put a picture of what this mud looks like to get a fair idea of what it's like. Or take a jug, measure 775 milliliters in a jug to get an idea how much water that is, and then think that from this water was left over that our Prophet ﷺ used to drink as well. Then consciously think that how much water should I be using, and actually when you do make wudu with that water properly, you're more conscious and more mindful of when you make wudu, and you actually kind of think, because I watched a video of how we make wudu with that less water, and you actually take the water and you're actually rubbing it on your hands and face, not running it over.
Running it, right.
So, and it actually makes you think of the hadith of when you make wudu, of how our sins are being washed away, and you actually feel like I'm wiping my sins away from my face and from my arms. Makes you more mindful and more conscious as well. Puts more devotion into your wudu, which in turn will create more devotion in your salah as well. Water is one of the most precious blessings and valuable creation from Allah the Almighty, and everything on this planet depends on water and cannot survive without it. Allah the Almighty says in the Holy Quran, and we have made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? So, like I said, many people in this world, we tend to use the water excessively, especially when it's available so generously. We should think, like how many people in the world, they have to travel for miles just to collect a bit of water. Whereas we get it so freely. We should be thinking about these things.
Exactly. And it'd be a really great challenge if whoever's listening here, if you literally, when you make wudu next for your asr or your maghrib, or if you literally will measure, just try it and just measure. Is it 775 milliliters? Well, roughly, give or take, and just try making wudu with that. Like Habiba said, there are YouTube videos of people making wudu with a mud, so that's M-U-D-D. So if you YouTube that and try making wudu the same way they make it, and just compare that to how you'd normally make your wudu, and just see that difference. And
I don't know if you've noticed. I feel like we're in March, April, how much rain do we usually have at this time of the year? Have you noticed we've not had much rainfall?
We've not. I've got a water collection container in my garden, and it's not filling up basically.
No, I'm having to go out and water my plants outside every day because the ones in the pots, they dry
up faster.
And I like to go for a walk, especially at Watermead Park. And there's one part where we walk over this bridge that goes over the canal. And usually when the water's on a high level, it drains off really fast. But for the past 2 weeks, we've been like, that level is really low. And every time I see that, it really worries me. You've had some messages come in. Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak to you all, and Jazakallahu khairan. This is Sister Shaista here. She's got a question for us. And she wants to bring to our attention to the fact that a lot of people are using our orange recycling bags for their own personal use.
I didn't realize people were doing that.
So I'm assuming those are the orange bags that we get from the council to fill our recycling rubbish in, and some of us are actually using it for our personal use.
That isn't right. Basically, they've been recycling is a huge part of being environmentally friendly. It's the only way we are at the moment. We are the council as well as supporting us in doing that. Recycling any items and things like cardboard and things like that. So that's what they should be used for, not to store or use for personal use.
And I think it's kind of like an amana as well, because that bag has been given us to use for a particular use, and we use it for something else. Because arguably it's been given to us to be filled with recycling rubbish, to be given back to the council. Now, if we're using it for something else and we're not giving it back, and it's something that we should all think within ourselves. I mean, I'm not a scholar or anything. I'm not giving a ruling, but something for us all to reflect on. That are we using it what it's supposed to be used for? And
exactly. I definitely encourage people who are using it for personal use not to do that and use it for what it's supposed to be used for, because that is also part of you becoming green and becoming more eco-friendly.
Definitely. Would you like to talk about the bees, Hafsah? One of my favorite topics.
Yes. So
we've got 7 minutes.
Oh, we do.
And I think this is a really important topic.
It is, yeah. So you may or may not have heard through the news and things like that, but in the world, the bee population is drastically declining. Like they're reaching near a stage of becoming on the danger of becoming extinct, and they play such a huge role in our ecosystem. Sorry, we're just reading another message from Sister Shaista. I don't have my glasses, so also.
Right, so it says, also please put wash cans, bottles, etc. for recycling. It takes a few seconds to wash them. If you put unwashed items in the bin, the whole bag would end up in the landfill. That's a really good point.
That is a really good point. So I think with a lot of when you recycle, I think they tell you it's one of the clear instructions they say, and that is to make sure everything you do recycle is rinsed, so there's no like food waste or anything else in there. So 100% Sister Shaista. I think when you do recycle, make sure that you clean and you rinse things that you put into the bag. That's definitely really important. Sorry, I'm just gonna hop back to the bees. So the reason these bees are in decline is because in our production of our food, in production of our sugar, for example, in like sugar, you get our sugar is made from sugar beet. So that's a crop that they grow, and they more recently, like, they spray chemicals on it, and just generally they spray chemicals on and like pesticides on a lot of our crops when they are producing them. And this pesticide is without getting too scientific, it's basically very harmful for bees, and it causes them to like lose their senses, or it basically is resulting in their decline. And as green guardians, as Muslims who, like, in the Quran, there's a whole surah dedicated to bees. They play, like, the Quran highlights the important role bees play in our ecosystem. If bees weren't here, we wouldn't have our food. They are a huge role in pollinating our food. There's lots of other insects like butterflies, moths, lots of other insects that do the same. But bees are a really huge component of our pollinators, which produce our food, which produce our honey. So I think something that's something we should be thinking about. And to, like, going back to what you were saying earlier, Habiba, about ripping up lawns when you move into a new house, bees rely on, like, if you didn't cut your lawn for a week or two in the summer, and you notice the wildflowers popping up, and all the weeds coming up, those weeds and those flowers are actually really, really important for bees because it produces the pollen for them. So when I walk down a street, for example, and I don't see a single garden or all the gardens have been paved over, and I just think about the bees. I just think about the bees who turn up in this space and just don't have don't have any food to eat. So I think it's really important that we're going to touch on this in more detail later, but things like growing your own food.
What can specifically be done like to attract those bees?
Okay.
Are there any particular like flowers or any, like, I know you said the wildflowers, but
so there are lots of flowers that attract bees. Wildflowers in general are really helpful. Things like foxgloves, things like buddleia, things like centura. I'm just going to list off Latin names now. Things like sunflowers, for example.
Sunflowers are a good plant to grow with our children.
It is, yeah.
I think that's a really good activity that we could take up with planting those sunflower seeds at the start of Ramadan and watch how they grow. And some of them I've seen can grow really big as well.
They can. That's a really good idea. So I think that's a really good idea. So I think if you are listening, something really good to take away from this. So we want to increase the bee population. We want to support the bees because they play such an important role in our ecosystem. So I think it would be really great if you started with your kids, for example, planted some sunflowers. You've still got plenty of time to do that. I think it's March the 1st. What month are we in? We're in April. In April, sorry. April the 1st is considered the day to plant sunflower seeds.
So we're not that far off. We still can plant.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time. Yeah, I've not done mine yet. So, but yeah, get more wildflowers and all of that into your gardens, inshallah.
Do you want to mention the competition?
I do. Yeah, sorry. I realise now that we're running out of time. At Green Guardians Leicester, we really want to encourage people to do green action at home. So we're holding a competition, inshallah, for people to share their best at-home green action that they're doing. So it's open to all. You can be as creative as you want. And we want you to either send a photo or a video or in whatever form that you like of a green action that you're doing at home. You can email it to us at info@greenguardiansleicester.org, or you could share it on social media and tag us at Green Guardians Leicester. So we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook. With that photo, if you just send a few sentences of why you're doing that action, maybe what you're hoping to do next, and perhaps a hadith or a Quranic ayah that's inspired you to do the action. A green action could be something like upcycling, maybe you compost at home, maybe your favorite vegetarian dish, a way that you're reducing single-use plastic. It can be anything really. So we'd love for you to share that. If you don't feel like you're doing anything like that yet, even if you start doing something and take a photo of that and maybe say what's inspired you or what you're hoping to achieve with this, that'd be really great. At the end, inshallah, we'll have a selection of, we'll have a prize, which will be like a selection of items that will help you lead a more eco-friendly lifestyle, inshallah.
Inshallah. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, I know. I'm really hoping. So if you submit that to our email, so info@greenguardiansleicester.org, or to our social media, which is Green Guardians Leicester on Facebook or Instagram. If you want to learn more, we're just finishing up now. So if you want to learn more about us or even join our group and work with us on some campaigns we're hoping to do, contact us on Instagram or email us with the same details I just said. And next week, inshallah, there will be sisters Sana and Irfana talking about how to avoid food waste during Ramadan, which I think is a really important topic.
It's really important.
That's happening next week, inshallah.
I look forward to that.
Tuesday, 6 till 7, and on Wednesday will be Sister Fatima in her kids show doing about kids and being green guardians.
Inshallah. If there's anything that you want to know what we've talked about, please do contact
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.